Hello. What up? Hello, hello. Test, test. Okay, then let me send this over to participants. Invite, copy invitation link. Hold on, y'all. We'll brainstorm. What up, Diamond District Studios? How you doing? Just typing up an email, getting ready for our guest today. Just give me a second. Okay. Alrighty, give me a second here. Just a couple more things. We're gonna not that. We're gonna do this as well. Twitch stream dashboard. Why is Lou so serious? Wait. I don't think your mic is on. Oh, hold on. Go ahead.
Hey, okay. Can you hear me now? His mic is muted. Thank you for that, Demon Lab. But yeah, so in a nutshell, I am politely telling people that we've moved past this price point. In a nutshell, the verbiage that I'm using is, he asked me if I have another engineer that I can refer to him that's within his price point. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry, my assistant's out of town. The two that you want are busy. I could refer you to another friend of mine. You could try him out. And he's like, "You're seriously not available?" I'm like, "Sorry, man. I'm not. I'm booked this entire week, and I have work already next week, so I can't do it." He's like, "Damn." I'm like, "Yeah. Everybody else is 15-hour plus, just like me, that I can refer you to." He's like, "Sheesh." I'm like, I see it as a reason to celebrate. We can actually celebrate that this is the growth in our respective careers. I'm not saying you're being cheap. I'm just saying, like, hey, it's a good thing that we're more expensive. That means we're growing and we're more on demand, and we unfortunately can't do it for less. We've moved past a certain point.
Okay. What up? What up? Good morning. Good morning. Good afternoon. Money conversations are awkward for most of us. Should be topic you guys tackle sometime. We can even talk about that today.
Yeah, we can. To be honest, I love talking about money with clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, money is awkward when it's in a exchange format. If you do it outside of an exchange format, like let's say that you, like in this case where somebody says, "Wow, that's expensive," but you've known them for a while and they're telling you it's expensive, just say, "Hey, like, it's a good thing that I'm more expensive. That means I'm busier." That's a reason to celebrate, not complain. Aren't you happy that I've grown so much that I can no longer do it for less? Or are you complaining that I have to lower my costs just for you? Like, ouch, that is kind of hurtful for me. Like, we should be celebrating that I've gotten this far. If it's with somebody you don't know, just say, "Hey, I can always refer you to somebody who may not be as experienced or as equipped as I am, but I'm sure they will serve you well. Unfortunately, I'm just not in a place where I can accept work at this monetary value." It doesn't have to be awkward. Just be polite about it. And if they have any say in it that's rude in return, then you weren't the rude one.
What's more rude is you not talking about money, and then once the project is over, then bringing up money. That is rude. So
it is true. It is true. Unless they say the key words, money's not an issue. Charge whatever you're going to charge. Which I heard that the other day, so I charged them $100 an hour. And they didn't complain once. They're like, "How much do I owe you?" And they said, "Great, that was worth it."
There you go.
Then again, I made an issue that 5 other engineers couldn't solve go away in a matter of 4 hours. And it took them 2 months.
Anyway, good morning, afternoon, everyone. Evening. Well, I guess it is afternoon even for us. Good afternoon or evening, everybody.
Or potentially morning.
Wherever the hell you are. Thank you so much for joining us for today's stream. We're going to have David from Mixbus TV come join us today.
David! I actually have to thank him for one of the episodes that he recently released. Like I said, I had watched his channel a lot before, but I just haven't kept up with some of the newer stuff. And he released an episode about the people saying that isn't the 176 just a tube version of the 1176. And I always had to explain this one to people, but it's such a techie thing. It's not that techie, but like, unless you actually engineer, like, it's a techie kind of thing. He made a video on it.
Ooh, bad, not good on YouTube says, "Hey, flat rate versus hourly rate for mixing and or mastering."
Ooh.
I think this is pretty easy.
Yeah.
I think I would go as far as to even generalize and to say that the only time you should ever charge hourly for mixing or mastering is if they're already paying hourly for you to record. So, like, it should almost always be a per song basis or per project basis or per collection of song basis, never hourly. Again, like, the only time I charge hourly for, like, mixing or mastering is, like, when they pay me to record per hour in the studio. So I'm already, like, vocal producing and recording them, and we have leftover time, and they're like, "Can you just mix it real quick?" And I'll just, like, spend the rest of the time mixing it. That's really the only time that I'm mixing or mastering hourly. Otherwise, yeah, you want to do it per track, per hour, or per song.
So it's kind of funny. I agree with you on that, because to be honest, not
and
everybody's...
revisions, in case. Like, revisions are like any extra work might be hourly, but like...
That's if you don't already have that clause agreed on. Like, if somebody asks me for some revisions and it's the first time they ask them, I'm not going to charge them hourly.
No, but I mean, I'm talking like, for example, it's like, oh yeah, I already agreed to a certain rate for mixing, and then after we agreed to it, it's like, oh, also this is gonna take some heavy vocal production, or like, can you replace all of the drum tracks or every single stem
yeah.
on this, or something that takes extra time or something like that. I'll try to be like, yeah, I can do that, or like they hit me up years later, like a year or two
Yeah.
later, be like, yo, can you just redo the stem or rebalance the stems? I'll charge them per hour for.
I'll do that
small
after a
work.
couple months. It's like, hey, you've had all this time to communicate. But no, honestly speaking, I'm kind of in between. So one thing I'll do is if they want me to mix a song, I'm perfectly cool if they want to be there during the time that I'm actually mixing it, which means I just call you when I've finally started because I've got a bunch of things on my plate. But if somebody wants it, like, yo, like, can we come in for like 6 hours and have you mix the songs while we're there, this and that, it's like, that's going to stop me from doing whatever else I was going to do. So I'm going to charge you just for the studio. I'm not going to charge you for my time. I'm just going to charge you for the studio. And at that point, I might charge them for my mastering room, like an extra $25 an hour, where it's like, hey, you've stopped me from working on other people who had priority. So I'm going to charge you for that as a premium. But outside of that, I actually have a good friend who would actually go the opposite of what you said. He actually does not charge a flat rate. He only mixes by the hour. And because of that, he gets a lot of like 2-track artists where they're just like, oh yeah, it's just a lead vocal, 2 backing vocals, and I got an album worth of stuff. And he'll charge them $75 an hour to mix. Where he'll tell them, like, if it's a small song like that, typically speaking, you're paying $75 a mix. But at the end of the day, let's say he did 10 hours worth of mixing. They may not be the best mixing ever, and there's no revisions included because of this, because you sat there with him. And then after that, it's $25 a revision. But he was telling me, he's like, there was a point during the pandemic when everybody had their EDD money and blah, 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 where he was making an average of like $500 a day.
So, yeah, it's totally up to you and how you do it, but I do think that it's awkward and it takes away time. And coming from like, so like how you charge is kind of like a practical, you got to think about the economics of it, right? Like if you charge someone, or if someone, like think about paying employees. When you pay employees per hour, what are they motivated by? They're motivated by how long something takes, right? Where if you charge someone, or if you pay an employee per project, then they're more motivated by how quickly they can get it done. So it's this weird thing. There might be some in between things. Obviously, like commissions is more about like how good of a job you do rather than the time that you spend on it, right? Which is kind of the in between. So here's a problem that I have, right? So I'm an owner of LaunchPod Media, which is a media marketing company, and we have audio editors. We're a high-class, white glove podcast production, editing, and marketing agency. So let's say we have to pay our employees, and when we pay them, we had to decide, okay, are we going to pay them to sit down and edit the podcast and pay them per hour? Or are we going to do it per song or per episode? Or are we just going to do salary? Or like, what is the thing that we're going to do? And it came down to, okay, if we're going to do it per hour, the problem is that they're just going to they're going to take a long time on everything. But the positive is, because they're going to take a long time on everything, they're motivated to do a really great job because they're going to take a time on it potentially. But if we do it per episode, then they're going to be motivated to get things done quickly. Anyway,
goes back to efficiency of what you're doing.
Yeah. So in this specific scenario, we decided to charge them per hour, which costs us probably more money. But we ensure, because we are a white glove high-end service, we can actually like tailor and make sure that we have reason for them. It's okay for them when we ask them to spend more time on projects. But if we're charging per episode, then we couldn't ask them to spend more time. It's a little bit harder. But like, I think something to think about there as well. I know there's less crossover from that story to us, but I think that,
I mean, if you have assistant engineers, not so much.
Yeah. And then I do think that, like, from our perspective, now imagine getting paid, right? So if I'm getting paid per song, per project, I have the potential, the opportunity that I have is to make more money per hour.
Yeah.
And then if I work per hour, then it's not scalable. So I'd rather charge. It's better for me to charge per project from Monterey. Because, like, there's times where I make $250 an hour.
Yeah.
But then the risk is there's also times where I make $50 an hour. And the thing is, because I'm not employed by anybody, my brand is my personal brand. Regardless of how much time it takes,
Yeah.
I have to do a good job. Unlike the employees, because, well, I mean, they could get fired. But so there's a little bit of like reason to do.
I mean, their name still gets
motivation to do a good
credited
job.
if everything's handled properly.
Well, no, I'm talking about like the employees at LaunchPod.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so like they're not
Yeah.
getting credited. That's not a credited thing. Yeah, so that's kind of like that's the difference. Is in our case, we are getting credited. It is showcasing our work
Yeah.
as a personal brand and reputation. So, the way that I see it is like, yes, we're motivated to do things quickly, but it's based on systems and efficiency rather than cutting corners.
Yeah. I don't know. I will say this. It's kind of a funny, weird place. I've seen some guys doing subscription, and I'm kind of curious as to the model behind it. It's kind of one person explained it to me as that does the subscription model. Not everybody that has a Netflix subscription actually watches, but they like knowing that they can watch when they want to.
Yeah.
Which is a really weird model for mixing.
So I do recommend, regardless of whether or not that works, I recommend if you like that idea or if you like any crazy ideas that you have,
Try
whether
them.
it's running like coupon discounts or anything, try it. Yeah, like
Yeah.
exactly what you said.
Yeah.
Try it. Try it and learn from it. It might be awesome. It might not be, but give it some time. Try it. We have a question. Do you charge for revisions and how do you go about it? Let's start with Lou.
No. And personally, the way I've actually minimized the amount of work for it is a combination of Zoom and audio movers, and just having my client here. I'm actually a huge fan of having my clients around when I mix. So if you ever have me mix and you want to be around, I don't really care. Come. It actually helps me out because there's less revisions. But when there are, it really helps me know. Actually, there's three things. DK put me onto one of them, which is FilePass. But Zoom and Audio Movers combine. Audio Movers so they can listen to an actual link of the session at whatever resolution you select. If you have fast internet, send them full resolution. They can listen to it on their browser, their phone, their AirPods. It doesn't really matter. As long as it can connect to the internet, they can hear it live. And then on a Zoom call, you can actually say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Like, is this the line that you were talking about? I'm not really hearing clearly what you're describing. This is the line. Okay, what about it exactly is what you meant? Because your description may not have been perfect. But the cool thing is I'm done with revisions within an hour for a specific song, and then there's no more revisions after that. In most cases, so once in a while you get an off day where like there might be 3 more revisions that they didn't hear in the spot, or maybe we forgot to go over. But outside of that, FilePass allows you to send a link of the bounces to your clients. You can put a paywall if you want, if they haven't fully paid for the project yet, so they don't download it and then forget about whatever. But they can also leave timestamp notes or general notes. And the cool thing about the timestamp sections is you can also highlight a range and say, hey, there's like some buzzing going throughout this section. Can you look into that? And that's actually really easy for me because I know exactly where to look. I know exactly what you want. And it's dated, so I get an email once there's a revision request. So if you have a request, you don't have to text me a million notes. It makes it a checklist. My ADHD brain loves it.
Yeah, I do think that it's whatever you decide to do, whether you charge for revisions or do unlimited, you got to make it clear beforehand.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want is someone that didn't know that you charge for revisions, and then they get to that revision number. It's like, all right, now I charge. They're like, oh. I personally, most of the time, don't charge for extra revisions. My mixing price includes the anticipated amount of revisions. I don't think that works for everybody, and specifically that works for me because the way that I approach it is very different. One, the way that people normally approach it is, hey, I do enough revisions until you're happy with it. But the problem with that makes it feel very inconfident, and nobody wants to hire someone or trust anybody that is inconfident about their work.
Yeah, exactly.
So the way that I do it is kind of frame it is like, I do unlimited revisions because you're not going to need that many.
Yeah.
And so that way it like comes in almost cocky, but like if you're hiring someone that's in the service, like, or service oriented, like I kind of want, like, I want a barber that like thinks he's good.
Yeah.
I don't want a barber that's like asking me too many questions. Like, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like feeling.
That's why whenever I hear that, now and here's the funny thing. Here's the trade-off on that. Anytime I see a marketed revision cap, like as it's part of the marketing of it, I also kind of wonder, I'm like, okay, so what's your specific style? At that point, like I can't hire you until I know enough about your style to know like what the end result's going to look like.
Yeah. And so.
Because part of revision is, correct me if I'm wrong, some people would even ask for a different mix. Like, I like your mix, but it's not what I was looking for. What would you do then? What would you do then? Is that a revision for you, or is that, okay, now I have to start over?
I regardless when you're talking about when it comes to not charging per revision.
Yes.
Yeah. That
Like
would
if
be
you
part
had
of
to
my
start
mixing
from
process.
scratch.
I'd be
Okay.
okay with that.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know some people
personally-
are like distinguish the two separately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those kind of things like, yeah, those are very far and few between. But
Yeah.
I don't. It's so far and few between that that's not an issue that if someone asks for it, then my priority to over deliver becomes precedent over how much time I spend on a project. Like, if it comes down to it, I'm willing to make $2 an hour just to make a client happy. But you bet your booty, next time I work with that artist, I'm going to be really strict and define the rules and be like, okay, there
Yeah.
are going to be a specific number of revision count the next time, especially if I didn't talk about it before. So there are a couple clients where, like, I say that there's a revision count because they are known to, or they have with me, or someone has warned me that this person will ask for unlimited revisions unless you cap it.
Yeah. I had to not naming names or saying this was a bad thing or anything, but this is like a clear sign of where I should have over communicated before coming on to the project with them, where I said unlimited revisions because I confidently don't, like you said, don't think I'll need that. I never do. It's very rare when I have like an over revisioned project. But like so rare, it's been years. But the funny thing is guy kept switching the drum patterns. Like, in fact, they asked me to mix it, send them the stem so that they can like do some final movements, and it turns out once again they swapped the drums, swapped the guitars, added vocals on top, all kinds of stuff. But they did this like 5 times. I'm like, hey, just so you know, this isn't revisions. Like, this isn't a revision. He's like,
Hello? Oh, that was really, really weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. I think we may have lost a lot of y'all. But as far, what were you saying? Sorry.
oh, we were just talking about over communicating. You said terms
yeah,
and
yeah,
policies on the website is a good idea.
Yeah, so like whether or not you actually enforce your terms and policies is a really good idea to have like almost like too many rules. Mostly because if there are problems, and if you overeducate them or at least give them an opportunity to read through anything, if there are problems like that, then you can be like, did you read through the terms and conditions that I required you to read through? And then you can enforce the rules without being a jackass.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to be like, if there's nothing written. So with our studio, for example, we have a very specific and explicit like list of rules and policies for the studio, including cancellation and reschedule. Most of the time, we are not as harsh as the policies.
In fact, we're very lenient on
We're
it.
very lenient on
Yeah.
it until they give us a reason not to.
Oh my
Then
God.
we have insurance. We can fall back and be like, this is what it says on our website.
And the funny thing is, like, the people that give us a reason to are usually not like your everyday person. Usually like wild cards that you wouldn't expect in the deck of cards you had before. But no, it's actually kind of
Oh, we're
funny.
dropping
So
again. We're dropping again. Sorry.
Oh, you're all good.
Zoom doesn't drop. It's literally just Twitch.
Are we hardwired?
Yeah, we're hardwired and everything. I don't know why it does this.
Maybe cache delete on the modem.
Yeah, I've done that too. Again, if it was an internet issue, Zoom would cut out.
Did you zoom in with your mouse?
Yeah, you could double tap on the Magic Mouse.
I tried using a Magic Mouse the other day, and I
You can
kept
also
screwing
switch
everything
You can
up.
also switch between screens. Yo, Magic Mouse is the best. I'm telling you, Rolly Ball has way less functionality. You can go left and right scrolling as well.
Well, actually, they came out with a new one that I'm interested in.
You can triple tap, which does different things. Anyway, are we back?
There we go. We're back.
Sorry, y'all, the internet. Would you guys recommend the Mic Tech CV4 mic? Have you heard of it? I've heard of it.
Wait, Mic Tech?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. They were actually pretty popular back in like 2014, 2015. But I don't think they were all that great personally. I think they were good. I think they were really solid for the sounds of their time. But I think a few better mics kind of came out over time.
All right, we got David coming in right now. He's about to get on the stream, so everybody. Say hello to David. Hold on, give me a second. Let me do angle to zoom. There it is. Alrighty, here we are. Okay,
Boom.
let's do this. I'm gonna admit him into the group.
Ooh, I didn't see that the pop was coming out. Should fix that. There
hello,
he is.
Hello. Can you hear
Hello.
us?
How are we doing?
Doing
Good.
great.
How are you, David? Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Oh yeah.
Congratulations on the 120,000 subscribers.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you so much. Thank you. Yeah, it's a long, hard road, for channels like ours. Like it's very technical content. We don't do much entertainment or cats, which would be the thing that gives you 1 million followers instantly, right?
Yeah.
But that's the game.
I'm too allergic to cats to be able to do that.
No, I, for real though, I'm a media guy. Like 120,000 subscribers for a music production channel is a big deal. Like that's a big deal.
Thank you. And I also am not very smart at it, and I never run ads or something like that, because I just, I don't know why. I don't actually know why. A lot of people does it, but so it's really, all organic and just people word of mouth, which is great.
I'll have to ask you sometime about how you've specifically found success monetizing your channel, because I know you have like a join thing and you have classes and merch. I'd love to pick your brain about that sometime.
Yeah. I mean, if you want it, I can tell you a little bit of it. So a channel like mine, it doesn't, at least my channel, we don't sell any merch at all. Probably 10 people bought a t-shirt, which is weird, but a lot of people definitely join the members only content because I don't know. See, this is the thing with YouTube. YouTube is kind of very unfair in this regard, as in the clickbait title gets you views. If you buy the most popular product and start talking shit about it, it brings you views because it's controversial and everything. While very technical content that it doesn't really look at the shock value, but more the content, it kind of struggle to go rank high. So it was kind of frustrating for me to do videos that have, in my opinion, like really high educational value, and then see YouTube basically almost shadow banning them because they were like, this is not cats, or it's not like, whatever it is.
Cats.
And so I was like, you know what, guys, it can't work. So I was like, even if my premium content is paid, it's got a very, very low price. It starts at $4.99 and you already have access to all the videos. It kind of makes more sense because at that point, you only have people who actually value your work that are going to, watch and benefit from those videos, which I think is fair because YouTube, we all know it pays absolutely jack, even if you have 110,000 subscribers. And that's why, and a lot of people also, when you have a membership, you have mixed consultations, and a lot of people subscribe even just for that, because they send me the mix and I review their mixes and I'll give them like tips and tricks like how to make it better and so on.
That's really smart.
Do you use Patreon or do you use the built-in member service on YouTube?
No, it's the built-in member because I noticed that at least with my audience, but I think for the most part, YouTube is like YouTube audience is like that. They don't like to go on another platform. If they have it there, easily accessible, they will do it. Otherwise, I had to sign up on the blah, blah, blah on the other side. I tried Patreon, but it wasn't. And also you kind of have to create double content and load it over there. And the video on Patreon is like really, at least it was, kind of clunky how you can make a video private and only available for certain people. You had to link something with Vimeo. So it was actually an extremely welcome feature when YouTube rolled out the membership. And I was one of the first channels actually, because it wasn't available for everybody. I was very happy about it, and people were very happy about it because even the members are the guys that really make the channel survive, because At this point, I can afford to spend time and make those high educational value videos because, you know, I have the support of those members. Otherwise, they would go down in the in the absolute lower rank on YouTube.
Gotcha. Yo, I do have a question for you. This is kind of funny. It's left field, but it's something I've been wanting to ask you for a while because you're one of the very few people that I know.
Podcast?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. If we want this on the podcast.
Well, I don't know. It's not on the
recording
podcast kind of quality thing.
Okay.
It's more. I actually used to work very closely with the guys at Eve Audio when they came out into the markets out here in LA. And I actually really like their speakers, but I noticed that though they blew up for a little while, I didn't see a lot of people they didn't trend as well as other monitor brands, sure.
Right.
But I noticed you've been actively a long time user of Eve Audio, and I've always loved their sound.
Yeah.
I can't even find them in a store anymore. How do you like them? Like, what is your opinion on them? Like, why did you stick with Eve Audio, even though I noticed you have your Genelecs, I know you have the JBLs as well. Obviously, those two are not even in the same price bracket. But why did you stick with Eve Audio? Like, you didn't follow the trends, is what I'm saying.
No, absolutely. Actually, for me, like, generally, these monitors that I have right now has been arguably the biggest game changer in how confident I am with my mixes and how happy the clients are. And we can probably say everything. I had or worked in, you know, you name it. Like my first gig was in a studio with like gigantic soffit mounted Genelecs, and I worked with any kind of speakers. I had Adam for a long time in my studio in Europe. I worked with like all the PMC towers, you name it, like all of them. Focal, you name it. And while monitors are obviously a personal choice, a lot of people like NS10s. I hate them. So
mine sit on a shelf like 10 feet above my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really found Eve, I just click with them. And I think the reasons are several. So I was coming from Adam before having the mains Eve that I have now. And I liked their technology on the Twitter. My problem with that was how narrow the sweet spot was and how laser focused was. In Eve, I found what I liked about that kind of Twitter, but so much better, because the sweet spot, I can roll my chair left and right, you know, and grabbing my gear, which is, you know, a little far from me, and I never lose the sweet spot. Same if I stand up, which is amazing. Granted that my Twitter is as bigger as a small monitors, but the other thing that I like about Eve is that they don't have series, right? Okay. So some companies have like the high quality series and the mid range and then the low range. They have one technology, they transfer it from these to the small ones. And so you are very consistent. I actually just delivered a friend of mine a pair of like the small ones, I think the 4 inches, and I was like, yeah,
the 204s,
yeah, that's the mid range that I have. That's, of course, they don't have the low end in extension that mine have, but the money range and the top end, it was like, yeah, that's it. That is exactly it.
I used to work on 207s and 307s for a long time, which is why I was so surprised. I had them on loan from the company as I was doing a lot of sales from them, but like I was head over heels over them. I was sad the day I had to give them back.
Yeah. And the other thing that wowed not just me but a lot of people was the low end, because they have this special design in the port, right? Which that's something I've never found in any other monitor. It sounds as tight, as precise as a closed enclosure, right? But it's ported, and the design is so extended, to the point that when I first got them, my room wasn't ready, and I parked them in a Echo Bar, right? Bob Horn's room. And we had his Asperger there, which was giant, with a sub, and mine next to it. And you know when you feel the low end on your thigh, right? Yeah, with mine, you could feel the low end on your shit. It was like so low. Everything was trembling. It was like so precise. And that wowed everybody. He was like, holy shit, they don't just go low, but they do it so effortlessly and with no distortion. That is just, that was like, I stopped checking my mixes anywhere else. Even if it doesn't matter how you advanced you are, it happens like, oh, let me check how it sounds in the car or the phone. Even if not every time, here and there you do it. I don't do it anymore. And if I do it, it's crazy because I'm like, oh, wow, this sounds really good. Like, sometimes you have the opposite. Even if it still sounds good, you find like a mistake in your phone or whatever. It never happened to me before. Again, after this, I'm like, oh shit, did I do that? Like, how?
Yeah.
So we want to let's start recording the podcast. But before we do, I wanted to ask you. I think I mentioned in the email, this is not really an interview show, but we love to have special guests on to kind of like substitute teach or like assist in the lessons here.
Sure.
So we're gonna let you take like lead, but we want to teach something. Now, is there the one overdone topic is communication with clients and how to deal with clients. Other than that, as technical as you want or as philosophical as you want, is there something that you like sticks out to you that really like that you'd want to talk about?
Oh my God, I just closed the Q&A, so my head is like, I have like 50,000 questions in my mind. So if you guys give me like a go or a subject, I'll
Well, I
pick up.
really liked your episode on the feedback versus feed forward that you released today. That was really good. I told DK I was going to do this. Thank you for releasing that 176 versus 1176 video. I love the 176, and I always get that question. They're like, oh, that looks like an older 1176. It's not. It
No,
technically
it's not.
kind of is, but it's not.
Yeah, they're very, very different.
Yeah, we could talk about, I noticed you're a huge user of the Futzbox. Like, I know you like using saturation a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's see. We can go into compression, feedback versus feed forward. That's a great one.
Yeah, that was a really good
also-
episode. Even though it was short, it was very concise.
Just out of curiosity, if there's one thing that you want to promote during the episode, what is the thing that you want to push?
Well, that would be my artist, Bella.
Okay.
Nice.
And
So-
we are, yeah. So her first 2 singles, and then, we are about to release the third one.
By the
Right.
way, are y'all engaged or married?
We are engaged, and
Okay.
she's planning the venue and the dress and everything else. So as soon as she's done
Congratulations.
with that,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll talk about Bella. I'm wondering.
I'm not sure the feed forward versus feedback is gonna be long enough.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
This
and it
video-
also might be
That's
too
why the video was
technical.
short, because there's not much to say about it.
Yeah.
Other than
So
that.
our episodes are like an hour at the most.
Yeah.
So if our episode is 20 minutes and we say everything in 20 minutes, we're not going to. We talk too much. But we talk too much. But if it does, like we want to keep it less than an hour. Let's see. I'm wondering if I'm trying to think about something like we build the rapport and credibility so we can bring up Bella, and that becomes like a natural transition so we can convert as many people as possible.
How about the
Is there
treatment in your room?
or-
You have some interesting design. I know you're using. It looks like GIK stuff. I noticed you use more diffuser than you use absorber. Maybe we could talk about
we can,
like your
we can talk
preferred
about it. We
acoustics.
can definitely talk about it. Yeah, especially we can talk about like the basic that people can do at home.
Yeah. Or what about is there any sort of special techniques or things that you did with the Bella projects that you want to talk about? Like the way that you recorded or the way that you specifically compressed her vocals or anything like that?
Or maybe the approach to the production overall, since you were kind of heading things, maybe how you went from pre-production to execution of the final production.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to say about that. Yeah.
So, okay, so let's do that then, if that's cool. So that way it'll be an easy transition into check out Bella.
Sure.
'Cause that's a
Pre-production
super
to
important
post.
one. Yeah, like, so most of the time you're mastering, you mix as well, but
Yeah.
for this specific instance, you're producing and finalizing, overseeing to the end. So what is the difference, and kind of like that experience has been like for you? So most of our
Yeah.
audience is producers, like beginner to intermediate producers and engineers. So I think that'll be actually a really credible, relevant topic. And then we'll kind of like let you talk. And I know that you have experience being a touring musician as well, so we can talk about
Yes.
that and how you transitioned into the studio and now how you're going back to doing a little bit more for her.
Yeah, absolutely. But
All right.
feel free to just shoot me questions, please.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to re-navigate as we can.
Yeah.
But this is honestly, it's so chill. There's no need to overthink this. I know you're not going to.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I'm recording on Zoom. Oh. All right. Okay. I'm going to start us off. Hello and welcome back to the Mixing Music Podcast. I'm your host DK, and with me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Selfish Lou.
Lufish?
Lufish? Well, if you didn't know, we live stream our recordings and we put these episodes on YouTube, and Lou is wearing a Selfish hat.
Oh, yeah. It's actually kind of specific, actually.
It always makes me laugh. I know it's not I know there's a deeper story to it, but
It's actually an artist that DJ Ice had me master the entire album for.
okay,
And this is part of the merch for the album. And after the merch came out, he came to the studio one day. He's like, by the way, I got you a hat. And it said Selfish on it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to look in the mirror and remind me that some days I need to be selfish.
So Lou, today's nickname, Lou, is Selfish Lou.
I'll take it, you know.
Whether or not that's true is debatable.
I'm going to make a happy amount of me time today.
And today we have a very special episode with a wonderful guest. We're so excited to have him on. David is the host of Mixbus TV on YouTube. If you haven't heard of him, you haven't been doing enough research on YouTube. That's what it's come down to. He's a mixer, mastering engineer, as well as a teacher, online teacher. Has a YouTube channel. Was a touring musician at one point. Is now fully in the studio. Is now working with full executive producing an artist named Bella. Wonderful coach, everything. Wonderful engineer. Give it up for David.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank everybody for tuning in. And I also paint the walls if you need and swipe the floor. Add to my curriculum.
Well, thank you so much. We're so excited to have you on. We're really, really grateful for you. I know you're busy, and I know that all the content creators are working. I'm not gonna lie to you. For anybody listening right now, we are a much smaller channel, but I'm going to tell you how much we're busting our butts for you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I can't imagine how much David is busting his butt for you as well. So
I think it's busted.
busted, yeah. But today we have an interesting topic. David, you are currently mostly a mastering engineer and then also do mixing.
Yeah.
But recently with your now fiance, congratulations on that, you've been
Thank you.
going back into the route of full-on executive producing, going from recording to finished tracks, even producing out some of the tracks. Or I don't quite know intimately how deep into the process you are, but I want to take a look at how you came to LA as a touring musician and then went into the studio, and then now you're coming back out to produce, and what that experience has been like and what you've had to relearn or to kind of what you figured out is important, especially because you now have an asset, as big or as small as it may be. You have a platform to perform, to showcase your artists. You have a YouTube channel. That's so incredible, and kind of the insight that you've learned from all of this stuff. I'd love to take and poke your brain. Maybe we'll even get into some marketing too. So tell us a little bit about your story and your background and how you ended up getting to where you are now.
Absolutely. So, my story starts aside from the years in which I was learning piano, that I was just a little kid and everything because my mother wanted me to. First guitar, and then we'll skip all that part. When I formed my first and only band, like many, we were elbowing our way into the industry, right? So trying to find a contract and trying to find somewhat success, and eventually we signed with a major label, with a Universal Record, and we did an album. That collaboration didn't go that well, let's put it this way. We call them the shelving years. At this point, we're talking about 2008, 2009, where a lot of labels were basically buying off bands that could hurt their main acts or just whatever, and they were shelving them. So that was the first lesson. Just because you sign with a major label doesn't mean absolutely nothing if you're not at the top of their list of their priorities, and that's exactly what happened to me. And we didn't know, of course. When you signed with a record label, you think, hey, that's it, we made it, this is Universal, it's amazing. But it wasn't. And many things happened. Like we were like we couldn't even check it, how much we sold, if we sold anything, because we're talking about the CD era here. So there weren't numbers online for streaming or anything. So I had a contract for 6 years, one album every 2 years, so 3 total. We did not see a dime from the first album. And actually one day, like a friend of ours called us and told us, like, me and my bass player, we told us like, hey, amazing, I'm playing with your songs on Rock Band 3, the video game. And we were like, what the fuck are you talking about, right? Because we didn't know anything. We absolutely didn't know, because we didn't know, but we signed everything off so they could do whatever they want. And so, yeah, we went on YouTube, and there was like video. They're still out there, by the way, if you look at it. If you look
Wait,
on
hold
YouTube,
on. I have to ask, what is the song and the band name officially?
Oh, there were 3 songs in the video game, and I think you can find it easy if you go on YouTube and Google Hellfire Society. What would be Run Rabbit Run, Rock Band 3, or just Hellfire Society Rock Band 3, and they should be coming up. And there's people. Oh,
that's awesome.
Yeah, there's people playing with our songs, and we didn't know anything, basically.
So when you found out your music was on a very popular video game, I mean, I knew that you didn't know that you sold your rights, but were you excited that was even a thing, or were you like, oh, what are you doing?
Yes, of course we were like super happy, but the problem is that all these things don't mean much if the label doesn't promote you, and they're just making money off of your stuff, even the little that, we actually don't know how much we sold. It's not that we were like a gigantic band or something. I mean, we played, world tours, but it wasn't like we weren't like Korn level or something. So even the little money, we never saw anything. So we were just able for the label to let us go, because we weren't seeing a dime. And then the second album we signed with a pretty big independent, was called Dance Macabre Record. But at that point, I was kind of saturated, because of all the problems with the first deal. And then the life of a musician never was exactly for me, because I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't party. So I was like, after playing, I was going to bed. So I was like a little bit like a fish out of water, while I very much enjoyed the studio life more. But all this, I think everything happens for a reason, because it taught me a lot about the music industry, and it taught me what to look out for, right?
Hold on.
Artist.
I don't mean to stop you. First off, I didn't know exactly your touring history. Yeah. And hold on, what was your part in this band? The singer?
I was a singer and songwriter. I was playing also guitars in the studio and like doing pretty.
Okay. Because I just looked this up. Bro, I know you're like big into like going to the gym and everything. Yeah. Like, bro, I'm looking at your pictures right now. You're ripped. You are ripped. You've been ripped. Holy shit. That's crazy. And that's a look. Sorry, you got to look it up. You got to look it up if you're listening right now. That's crazy. That's
I don't
awesome.
think DK has seen this scene of music much.
Yeah, I'm not a rocker at all, so like this is so cool. This is so interesting.
Yeah.
You were like the lead frontman. You were a straight edge frontman.
Yeah, I was, and so yeah. I mean, even if it's still kind of the rock star thing, it wasn't for me. I was a very boring kind of frontman in that regard. But the whole thing kind of taught me what to look out for, and how a big chunk of the reality that is the music business, so the business side of it. And so I feel like I can protect my artists right now, and I'm not gonna grab the first crappy deal, which basically is, oh yeah, sure, we take 95% of everything, and you take 5%, which at the end of the day you actually owes us money because we give you like an advance or something.
Do you recommend, I mean, having firsthand experience getting signed and having a specific experience, what do you think about people that are interested in trying to get signed, or have recently gotten an offer to get signed by a major or minor label, like, is that something that you recommend for if you've never done that before?
I recommend to have someone that has experience in music contract to take a good look at that contract first. And the thing to make sure are that in the contract, there's first of all, when you're gonna be paid. Because sometimes it just says in a timely fashion. And that means whenever they want.
Oh,
Could be 10 years, right?
That means
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Their deal is that whatever you give to them, which is most likely your copyrights or your masters, which I advise not to give, because unless there is a significant investment in promotion from the label, because nowadays that's everything, right? That is absolutely everything. Not only they have to give you access to certain outlets that would be inaccessible for like the average Joe, but they also have to put some promotion in the contract, what they're gonna do, when they're gonna do it, in what capacity they're gonna do it, and then the split at the end. So I don't jump on a contract just because a label wants to sign you. If they want to sign you, which nowadays is kind of hard, and I can go into it if you want, if they want to sign you because they see value in your music. So know your worth and don't get excited just because, oh my God, it's a contra record deal and I'm gonna jump on it and I'm gonna be famous or rich. No, probably you're gonna, like, best case scenario, you're gonna be like more popular for a little while. They get all the money, and then, you know, if you get a bad contract or something like this, there's gonna be another one like you next in 3 months from now.
I don't want to misquote because I genuinely don't know what I'm talking about here. I should probably pull it up while I'm talking, but I've heard is not a credible source, but something along the lines of like less than 1% of bands that actually get signed make it to like stardom.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about that, average, about 90% of the income of even a major label is brought by the top 5 artists. That tells you everything. It means that all the other guys are paying for that one way or another, you know?
Holy shit,
yeah. So like I said at the beginning, unless you are at the top, you know, priority for that given label, really, really consider why would you even want to sign? Because labels today, I feel like the era of the A&Rs, the real A&Rs that scout the talent and they somewhat invest in them, even if it's just time and labor, right? It's kind of over, because labels don't want to take risks nowadays. So they look at a new act like a small business. Is your small business already making money? And this in 2022 translates in, unfortunately, how many followers you have on Instagram, on TikTok, or on YouTube, right? Because at that point, you already have an audience. Even if this is the part that everybody is vomiting about, like they feel bad about. You don't even almost need to be an artist. You have 10 million followers. Okay, here's a song. We'll find a way to make you sing. Just get in the studio, right? Because with as big a number as those, they can, even if they sell to 10% of 10 million, you know, followers, it's still a lot of money. And they don't have to pay promotion because you already have your audience, and maybe you have some merch. So your small business, the era in which they find, oh my God, this artist is amazing. It still happens. I don't want to like destroy everybody's dream. It still happens, but I feel it happens. It's rare. Right, it's way more rare than it was before. Before it was the norm. That's how the industry kind of worked, right? Now it's more like, okay, let's go on the main social media and let's see who's popular and could be a singer or something. They already have an audience. We can sell them merch. We can sell them this and that. And unfortunately, when the bottom line is money and only money, what suffers is the music, is the artist, and is the audience too.
So you went from this fully signed label, some cool things happened, you learned a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And I think that insight that you now have is invaluable. Like that is a super valuable insight. How did you transition directly into the studio, and what was that like, going from front man to backstage, behind the scenes, a studio rat?
Right. Well, we go back to my first guitar when they got me a first guitar for my birthday. I was like probably 8-9 years old. I suck at playing guitar, always. Even when I was in a band, I suck at playing guitar. But I remember this. I was just letting the string ring and start playing with the pedals. So you already know that was more my instinct, right? So when we went to studio with the band, I was just frustrated because I was hearing a certain sound coming from the amp and it wasn't translating on tape. I was like, that's not the sound that I want, right? And of course, being a Virgo, I am a student always, right? So I before going in studio, I wanted to know a few things. So I already started studying how a DAW works, how the signal flow works, and all on my own. I didn't have like anybody, unfortunately, so it took me a lot of time. But I already knew a little bit, like my way into studio, like what's a preamp, what an equalizer does, stuff like that. So after a lot of trial and error, I was like, you know what? No offense, just take a break. Let me sit here. Let me try. What's the worst that can happen? It's still gonna sound not right like it was before. And it took a long time, but eventually I got the sounds that I wanted. And at that point I was like, that was kind of cool first. I had fun doing it. And I actually maybe can do it if I like put my head down and I actually, really start to study this thing. And this is how it started. And then other people heard my work and was like, hey, can you do that for my band? I was like, okay. And because I was with the band, my first gigs were kind of big already, and it was just because of the connections that we have and everything. So I landed an official remix for Ladytron and one for Felix the Owlscat when, they were both like sky high. Wow. I mean, Felix the Owlscat was like Silver Screen. He's probably his most popular song. And both remixes ended up in their official remix album. So it was like, cool. And then, of course, I went back to, the local bands and I built up from there. But, that's how it started. And I was basically just already engineering and mixing and mastering for other people when I was in the band, but I wasn't promoting myself as such because back then it wasn't as cool as today that you were doing everything yourself. Back in those years, or aside from few exceptions, back then, if you were doing everything yourself, people like other musicians and people were looking at you, are you broke that you can't afford like someone doing it? Like, today it's cool, and it's all,
you hustle.
It's almost stigmatized if you you pay a professional for doing it. Like, but back then it was like, yeah, seriously, are you broke?
It was
like,
the opposite,
what's the deal? Yeah, exactly. So I wasn't due because also people sometimes have hard time accepting the fact that you can be good at two things, right? They have to put you in a box. Like you can either a good engineer or a good frontman. So it was like, you can't be good at both. And I'm like, all right, this is my goal. My focus right now is on the band and stuff. So I never took credits for my mixes or my masters and stuff like that, but I was already doing it. And when finally I decided, you know what, I just can't do this anymore. It's not the life that I want. It's just, it's not for me. Even the last tour was an absolute mess because we were on tour with Ansel and Gretel and we were touring Europe and we had the first night, was in Zurich, I think. And then 24 hours after, we were at the Viper Room in Vienna, sold out, gigantic place. We go out to put, that was day zero. So we were like two bands with the amps and the lights and everything. We go out to put our stuff in the van, in the tour bus, and there was no tour bus. and it was 3 a.m. in the morning. So we were
what?
So that's just one thing. But yeah, so many things like this happen. And I was just saturated and I was like, you know what, fuck it. And I was actually grateful that I had a plan B without knowing that I had a plan B. because I was already, hold on, I was like, now what? Wait, now I can be in studio and do that because I actually, like it even better.
Yeah, and during this time, and then eventually nowadays, what is primary, like not your YouTube stuff and your other stuff, like your primarily work when you sit down and work. What
Mix
is
and mastering.
Okay, mix and mastering.
It's mix and mastering. Yeah, mix and mastering. And let's say right now in this past month, it's probably 60%, 65% mastering and 45%, mixing.
But you have this interesting songwriting, producing experience, which we can go on and on about how that's probably helping with your mixing and mastering and your musicality there.
Absolutely.
We've talked about this. We're both like musical mixers, right? I come from a musician songwriting. I was a frontman as well, kind of a deal. So I know how that like influences mixes. But let's go into now. You have an artist. Bella Kelly, right?
Yeah.
And she's
correct.
on Instagram, Bella Kelly Official, and on YouTube and stuff like that. You've started. What is your process now with her? Have you gone back to producing from scratch, or like working with producers, or what's that been like?
Yeah, but all of it. Of course, I can tell you this: I never ever imagined, and it was never in my plans to go into such task because creating so to speak an artist from scratch and trying to break it to fame as an independent is arguably the most difficult thing you can possibly even consider doing in the music business. But for me it was it kind of came so naturally when a common friend of ours, so she used to act and she was like in movies and TV series since she was a kid. She didn't like it and she wanted to do music, so they were going around the music events and stuff to just get networking, and a common friend of ours introduced me to her and vice versa. And I remember that one moment when I got at the event and they introduced each other. She said hi to me. She just said hi. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. What was that sound that came out of your mouth? Like right now, Yeah, it was like, she sounded like a human life fairy. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And I was genuinely like, holy, if this is the reaction that other people are going to have, that's like, which is usually the case, it's just because we just met, so we weren't together or anything. That's something already. And then of course she looked the way she looked, and I was like, wow. So we talked about like what you want to do. You have songs, you have demos, you need mixing. What are you looking for? And so they explained to me that they were like starting from scratch. And so they basically, in short, even if they didn't know the definition, they needed a creative director, right? Which is beyond a producer, basically. So what is going to be the style? Where finding her style, where she's comfortable, what kind of music, what are your influences and all that. And yeah, that's when your past as a musician comes in.
It's interesting. That's actually a really good point, where she made such a deep first impression on you that was standout. Like it was not normal. I hate to say it, or maybe I'd love to say it, but even for you, the biggest thing that made you want to work with her more directly on the music side was her charisma, like personality, kind of like the fact that she can get attention from just a hello.
Yeah.
And that's really, really difficult for a lot of people. And some people have it. Like I've had like a little label thing going on, and that's really, really hard to find. Okay, so were you even planning on signing or working with an artist?
No.
That idea came because you were so impressed by this person.
Yeah. I had no idea, no intention, because I just moved here. I had to get my shit together still, but the thought process was for me, and you said it right. So charisma is part of it. Is she's someone that when she enters a room, people just go quiet and look at her. She can, wear a potato sack on, It's just some
That would
people
probably work
are
even
like
more.
Yeah.
some people are just like that. And so my thought process, even if it was unconscious right at the moment, was like,